Folks, welcome in to WCBS the Acolyte After Show. Tonight, it's just me. My co-host, Andrew, is under the weather, and so we're letting him rest tonight. Now, I may be joined by Script Doctor a little later, but I'm never alone when I'm streaming here on the channel because I got all the wonderful people out in the chat. So, hail to Jason Evangelista. We have Trebles08, Zero Dozer. We might be able to call it that in just a few minutes. Let's see who else we have here. We have Shoter Adran. We have Dr. Coffinails, who already said hi to Father O'Malley. Georgian's already here. We also have Taylor Swift, Greater Than Disney, Star Wars, and MCU, and a whole lot more, including TLJ Screwjob. So yes, folks, my setup's just a little different. I've been rearranging things, and my other desk is not accessible right this minute. So tonight we're in a different location. You can still see the wonderful toys and all that behind me and this TV. Maybe I should turn this bastard off. Let's do that, shall we? That might help. There we go. Now I'm looking kind of normal. Don't worry, folks. I'll be back a couple feet for Thursday night's show. Gunner likes the setup. Thank you, Gunner. Like I said, I just didn't really have access to the other stuff. But as you can see, folks, we're still here in the WCBS layer. So hello to P-Dubs do Huarte 6969, B Baker. I don't know if you're ever going to want to get an Acolyte box set. What would that box set be? 7 discs of disappointment and 1 not that disappointing episode? Look, folks, I take my notes every week in this Game of Thrones notebook journal. There you go. You can see it right there. I sat through this episode. Let's start off by saying this. This is the 3rd episode that everyone hated, the lesbian space witches, from a different point of view. Yes, it's another flashback. So as we think all of this great stuff is happening in this other Sith character that everyone's going on about, how great and hot he is, not even in the episode, nor is adult Osha, or well, May is the same actress, so it doesn't matter. But yes, it's another flashback, and like a lot of you, I rolled my eyes. Now, we're going to get to the bottom of the mystery tonight. We're going to get to everything that the Acolyte has been building to. This episode answers it all. But would you believe me if I told you the villains can now turn into space clouds or dust clouds, and that's how they fight? Yeah, you know, you can add new layers to Star Wars or any classic property, and it might not suck. I have new faith after watching Beverly Hills Cop 4, which the review is on its way to you. But then I go and I watch Star Wars, and I realize some things should be left in the past. Star Wars being one of them. I need some water, folks. I'm at a Capri Sun. So, let's see. You're watching Rama 1 half instead of this shit. I don't blame you. Yes, John Thomas. The Sith can bamf girthy guitarist. Yes, just like Nightcrawler, who's chilling back there on my shelf. The Sith can poof, poof, poof like Nightcrawler. And the black lady, the mother, she tries to like space cloud into her daughter and stuff happens. Let me get to that in a minute. But just to let you know, when they turn into space clouds, they can swarm into people's mouths. It's assumed it's their mouth, excuse me. But they swarm into somebody's body and they can control them. And then these ladies are all like this hive mind consciousness. So they're super powerful. And that Jedi Kilnaka, the Wookiee, he or is it she? I don't remember which one it is, but that Wookiee gets possessed and they have to fight this Wookiee. It's nowhere near as cool as it might sound to you. Now, folks, yes, Xavier to God, I am alone for tonight. Our pal Andrew is a little under the weather. He had to work the Denver con. Now, his voice has been a little scratchy for a while, but then he got sick. And like I told him, man, you got to take care of yourself first. Like I always tell anybody that ever streams with me, your family's first, and then take care of your health too. So Andrew will be back next time. But I'll be honest, guys, I haven't streamed by myself in like a year. I miss it. That's my favorite part about doing this, is just streaming one-on-one with you guys. I mean, do we want Good Morning Pop Culture? Do we want other shows where it's just me and the audience and we cover dozens of topics and have great streams? I wouldn't mind that. All you got to do is let me know. Hit the thumbs up button and share. Yes, Cortanis, it is cringe. It is bad. You're exactly right, Enrique. I'm never alone. I got you guys. That's why I'm so excited to do this stuff. Now, let's give Sejorjan a shout out. Thank you, Sejorjan, for being here very early with this message. So we went from not the good kind of lesbian space witches to Bishan and Raylo bait. I'm now half expecting golden showers in the next episode. Well, I didn't see any golden showers, but I did see lesbian space dust clouds. Like, seriously, there is a part where you remember how it was meant to be believed that Soul did all this bad stuff. Well, the first thing that you think he really did is kind of dumb because the mom and the other daughter May, they like try to merge as space clouds, and Jedi Master Soul gets nervous and just stabs her, and then she comes back into a human, and she's like, "I was gonna let her train with you. Why?" And then she just fucking dies. And then on top of that shit, folks, we also see that the fire that May started, they cut out the part where she like burnt her hand and she's like, "Oh no!" And it was just a big old mistake. And so they're really trying to paint the Jedi as bad people in this. They even make the Jedi have a cover-up conspiracy, and it's as hokey as you think it is. And I just gotta say in this preamble ramble, if it's Disney's intention to make you hate the Jedi, it's just another way to dump on Luke Skywalker because he sacrifices everything to become a Jedi. What's a Jedi? An asshole? That's pretty much what they made these characters into. Like, the lesbian space witches are the Sith, but now we're supposed to question what is evil and everything. How about a nice black and white story where good is good and evil is evil? And it doesn't matter what skin color you are. If you're on that side of the field, you're good and you're bad. Let's just get a movie like that back. Star Wars used to be like that. It wasn't until the later films where Darth Vader was a little bit of a gray area character. And then he got really good. So, you can do it. They just didn't do it right. But so, Georgian, I'm sorry that you didn't get golden showers. It would at least made this episode fun to watch. Shrebels08 says, the fart cloud is canon in Disney Star Wars now? Yeah, it's a queef cloud, my friend, not a fart cloud. Yeah, it is bad. It's garbage. The Jedi were bad all the time. No, they didn't kill the coven of witches. I'm just going to jump all over because you guys don't care about the order. You're all here just to have fun with me. So I'll answer your question. They didn't kill it. What happened is these hive mind lesbian space witches are all connected with the cloud, kind of like an Apple product. So they go in this cloud formation and enter Kelnaka's body. And then, Kelnaka like fucks up the one guy's face. The other, then he tries to kill Saul. Like, this Jedi Wookiee is badass. And all of a sudden, Carrie-Anne Moss comes back to the fray, if you will. And she like connects through the Force with Kelnaka. And it looks like she just breaks the bond, but then all the like lesbian space witches just collapse. And I don't know how they die. They just kind of like fall over. It's kind of like in episode 1 when all the all the droids, the battle droids, they destroy the ship, or the Avengers, a movie I actually like. When an Iron Man takes the nuke up to the spaceship and the Chitauri all just depower. Yeah, as soon as Carrie-Anne Moss cuts the connection of the hive mind, they all just die. Like, the big mystery here, and we'll get this out of the way early too, because it's going to be late for some people, and we have tons to talk about. Jedi Master Soul's big transgression, the thing that he's really, really guilty for, is not murdering the mother, because the mom, they were trying to attack the Jedi the whole time. They really spent the whole show trying to make you think that the Jedi were more of these morally gray characters, when in reality, the shit that May knows is not the truth. She's going on a lie. She's been operating on a lie the whole time. The Jedi were trying to, well, let's put it like this. Soul killed the mom in self-defense. When she becomes this giant space cloud, it's like she looks like Venom. When Venom separates from Spider-Man and he's all like, it's the mouth. I'm sorry, I'm trying to do a visual here and look at myself on camera. But you know how he separates and you see the big symbiote mouth and you're like, holy shit, what is this creature? That's kind of what happened. And then all of a sudden she's like, ooh, and she becomes a cloud. And he's like, what? And he just, he sticks his lightsaber in a cloud. And that cloud of dust then turns back into the mother. And she goes, oh, I would have let her go with you. But that's his big transgression. But the real thing that they want you to make, but the thing they want you to hate the character for the most, is the fact that, remember how the twins were on that catwalk? Well, it turns out that the catwalk, he was holding it up with the Force, and he only had enough Force energy to hold up the catwalk for so long, and he had to make a decision. Osha, May, Osha. He chose Osha. May fell to her death. That's it. And May doesn't know that. Like, that's the big twist. He only had enough power to save one. He saved the girl, and the other one died. But we also find out that they're not like twins like humans. They're the same consciousness separated into two bodies. So this power of one, power of two, power of many bullshit is continued on in this episode, folks. This thing has all of the ingredients to make you roll your eyes. It even has a hip-hop song in the credits. Follow the Twitter. I posted it. I can't share it here on YouTube or anything because we'll get demonetized and taken down. And we're almost at 200K. We're deeper into the 197 territory. So believe me, that celebration is going to be epic. But it really ends with a hip-hop song. And you look at me. I don't really hate any genre of music. I may not be the biggest country fan, but I am a big fan of music fitting the tone of the show. And Star Wars should usually end with da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know how the music ends. We all do. We love it. That's why we're here. But this one ends with some bullshit hip-hop song about the power of two and I'm becoming one and the witches. Like, I wish I could make this shit up. I'd be a trillionaire if I could make garbage this good. Believe me, this is all real. And there's great lines of dialogue I had to write, like, witches, arm yourselves. Yes, this is Leslie Headland's finest work. And if you didn't like that third episode directed by, was it Gondola or Condal, whatever his fucking name was? Well, he's back. This is a shit show. Folks, hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this content. We know you do. We see the numbers going up, so help us get there quicker. So Georgian and Troubles Await, thank you very much. Gunner says, I'd rather watch a weird microscopic world midichlorian sequel that George Lucas was planning than this stuff. Might not be as good, but interesting. Gunner, I don't disagree with you. Now, I have I won't say staunch opinions on Star Wars, but I have certain views that may not line up with everybody. But then again, if I did, would you really want to just listen to me go on about everything we agree about? I do think George Lucas is responsible for bringing some dumb elements into Star Wars, but to bounce off your message, I agree 100% that it would be better than what we got because it would be different. It would be interesting. In theory, we don't know about the execution, but I think everybody kind of understood, including George Lucas, that it all does end at Return of the Jedi. And it's such a great happily ever after moment. I mean, the day is saved. The Empire has fallen. Han and Leia are together. R2-D2 and C-3PO are dancing. And then Luke sees his dead dad and Obi-Wan and Yoda. And if you're watching the 97 edition, it's my favorite because I prefer that music. But, you know, Sebastian Shaw. Or is it Sebastian Stan? No, that's Bucky. Sorry. Yeah, Gunner, it would have been better. I'm not going to deny that. But, you know, we got hip-hop and dancing space witches because, you know, screw those numbers from Nielsen that show you that 75% of the Star Wars audience has left. Oh, no. Screw those people. It's this 25% that they're hungry for, and they're not showing up. And the remnant of us, it's like Fallout, you know, we're all living in the shelter. We're going out into the wasteland that is episode 7 of The Acolyte, and we're all disappointed. We're coming back irradiated. That's what I do for you people. I'm just joking. Xavier DeGott says, just saw Beverly Hills Cop for the first time on your guys' commentary, and I can see why it's your favorite. Jeff, when's the Spider-Man 2 20th anniversary? Well, thank you for asking. I'm going to do that live. I wanted to be completely transparent. The last couple of days have been radio silent because I've been spending time with my mom. It was her birthday on the 5th. She was off for the 4th, and then she had some time on the 6th. So I spent some time with her, and I was quite happy to do it. So I'm a couple days behind in the backlog of WCBS content, but we'll be doing Spider-Man 2 live, and I'll do a retrospective because I want to put my foot out there in the comic book creating world. You know, Stealing Solo is a big hit. It keeps moving. It moves more than Wokebusters, which, yeah, I would like Wokebusters to move a bajillion copies, but you guys want Stealing Solo. So, hey, I'm happy that people just want the work. But that being said, there will be a Beverly Hills Cop review as well. And yes, folks, if you're a patron, I dropped that today. You can watch the movie or listen along. And because things are tight, I lowered the price for the listen along version. So normally we tried to keep it at the 5 and up tier, but anybody that's a patron has access to that too, because it is what it is right now. But we always want to go the extra for the people who go extra for us, but we appreciate everybody. But yeah, man, Beverly Hills Cop, it's really hard to write the review for the 4th one because I liked it so much and I love Beverly Hills Cop so much that I'm trying to not just dump everything into this video. Like who wants to watch me go on about Axel F for 2 hours? Maybe somebody. I don't know. I'd have fun with it, but I really liked that movie. And yeah, I'll give you my ranking. 1, 2, 4, and 3 doesn't matter to me. Thank you, Xavier DeGott. And I'm going to go in depth for the Spider-Man one. Don't worry. It deserves it. It's that good. Taki P, thank you very much. Solo streaming and a gateway to OnlyFans, Jeff. If OnlyFans would have been a bigger presence, well, it would have been in Stealing Solo, but the world of the internet has changed a lot since Stealing Solo came out. Yeah, folks, that book is 5 years old at this point. But Harrison Ford is still in that basement somewhere in space. Will we ever find out what happens to him in the sequel? Well, if you read the book, you know what happens to him. But the sequel's funny, and the third sequel, you're going to want to read it as well. Frankenfisher, my man. Frankenfisher. Enrique Vasquez says, lesbian, Jedi, space cream, whip fighting with a Wookiee. Man, this had some potential, and it's a fly turd. We all, I'd say 99% of the audience is men based on the analytics YouTube presents us. And it's safe to say guys all like similar things. And so somehow Star Wars took lesbian space witches, which would have been a great Axel Braun movie, or Roger Corman film, and turned it into hip hop and dust clouds. Like I can't exaggerate how lame this was. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. It really is just that dumb. So, you saw Beverly Hills Cop for the third time. I'm sorry you watched that movie. It's bad. It's really bad. Do I want a fifth Beverly Hills Cop? No. The last one ended perfectly. We talk about how Thanos pulls out that knife and he balances it. He says, everything should be. Beverly Hills Cop has been restored. I'm happy. The movie's preserved. The original one on 4K, it looks great. The soundtrack's there, and the fourth one's good. All I need is an action figure, and you never touch it again, and Beverly Hills Cop is the perfect franchise. I'm really happy with this one. Now, how do you make a Jedi with a rampage look lame? This show did it. Yes, it did. Now, folks, you think back to the iconic moment at the Dejarik table on the Millennium Falcon, let the Wookiee win, they'll pull their arms out of their sockets, all that iconic shit that we can just spew at each other. Yeah, you took a Wookiee and you made a Wookiee kind of lame. Script Doctor, what is up, my friend? How you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. Sorry, I'm late. My portal to Disney Plus kept crashing like 5 minutes into the episode, so I just said, screw it. I'm coming on to talk with you. You tell me what happened.
Yeah, I was talking about the lesbian space witches and the dust clouds and the intrigue and the murder that was really never there. This episode, folks, is like, put it like this. If the Acolyte was a bubble, or no, if the Acolyte was a floaty device for your swimming pool, and somebody just came up and poked it with a tiny pin, and you just watched it deflate, this episode is like what happens when there's no more air in it. This thing is flat. You're supposed to feel like this is the big reveal. This is the thing that is going to make May and Osha's quest seem so valid and epic, and it didn't. So script, I apologize, but you said you got cut off midway into the episode, or you only saw part of it?
I barely got into the first act. I got the last time, and then I got little bits, and then as soon as the Acolyte went, I got the spinny wheel of death, and I'm like, is this my internet connection, or is this what's going on Disney Plus? And I'm checking through, and it's like, it's not me. So it just did not want me to see this.
Well, you avoided more of the lesbian space witches because this whole episode is a flashback to 16 years ago, like we're supposed to care. Yeah. And you get to see everything that went down. Let me just give a brief summary since you're here, and we'll talk about it. Don't worry, folks. I'm not going to read you every note. So like I said, it's a flashback episode. We see the Jedi land on Brendok. They're looking for what's called a Vergence, which is a powerful part of the Force that can create life. Mm-hmm. And so they're not allowed to return back to Coruscant until their mission is complete. And so they go their own separate ways. And then we watch Saul run into Osha and May. And it's most of the episode is just watching other scenes from a different point of view. So then after
got it.
So then after that happens, we get to see an extended version of when the Jedi met the lesbian space witches. Remember how they met face to face, and the younger guy, the Padawan, like fell to his knees after his brain was invaded by them?
Yeah, that was.
We actually see the invasion of the brain. So the black mom goes into his head and says, "Do you want to return home? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that?" She basically plays up on all his fears, and then it's like, "Bow to me." And so that's what we're seeing in the real world when he's on his knees and his eyes are black.
Cool.
So we're watching that. Really, the Jedi, while they're there for that reason, just to investigate, the woman is very, very antagonistic. So the space witches kind of fuck with the Jedi. So if the whole series was trying to make you look at the Jedi in a different way and wonder if they're good or bad, what I'll tell you in a moment may make people judge it differently. But so far, they're just kind of doing their Jedi thing of finding life that can create the Force and all this shit. They're investigating it. So after that happens, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. Sorry.
Go back to the quite ship. All right, because this is a tough show to try and break down.
I treat it like it's a school project. That's how I treat the channel in general. Like I'll sound like a nerd for a minute. I liked school. I never really had a problem with it. So I just kind of research or take notes like it is school still. So we go back to the ship. We see Indara, who's Carrie-Anne Moss's character. She wants to contact the Jedi on Coruscant. Sol wants to train Osha instantly. He feels a connection to her. Jedi Master Indara even says, don't confuse what Osha wants with what you want. So this whole emotional aspect is really played heavily. You even see the Sol and Carrie-Anne Moss like literally get into a fist fight just for a brief second, but it's like, I've never seen Jedi swing on each other, essentially. So once they get the girls to come back for the Jedi test, we see May's test. First off, they take a blood sample of May, and then she tells them about the Ascension. But when the Jedi ask her, do you know what that means? Basically, they tell her the Ascension is when they'll become one and they'll lead the coven. But then Carrie-Anne Moss goes, how can a child lead a coven? And the kid goes, I don't know. And then she talks about how it's an honor to be sacrificed. So that's kind of fucked up. Then we also see Osha take the test, but we already saw that in the episode. Then the Jedi are just kind of sitting around waiting for the council to give further instructions after the tests are taken. And the council says, no, they're too old. They don't want to interfere. They've already gone too far with this. They say that, but then after the blood tests come back, they learn that they're called symbionts, where they share one consciousness across two bodies. The girls are the virgins, and this proves it. So the young Jedi, who's desperate to go home, rushes off on his speeder bike, and Sol chases after him, and they want to get the girls to take them to the Jedi Council to prove that this is a virgins and creating life with the Force, and they want to get off of this fucked up planet they're on. So the lesbian space moms, then we cut to them. They're training May on how to fight. The one that looks like Kate McKinnon or Elizabeth Banks. They look the same to me. So then we, what happens? Talks to witches. Okay. The witches arm yourself line happens, folks. Then Carrie-Anne Moss and the other Jedi are flying in the ship, and they're trying to get to the base because they want to stop Torben and Sol from entering the base and causing further problems. That's what their mission is. So we see May start the fire, but you remember how in the third episode it looks real nefarious, how she's looking at the fire and she drops it and it burns and all this crap, and it looks like she did it. What happens is it shows her do that, but then she like burns her finger and fucks up and goes, oh no, and like freaks out and starts crying. So this whole evil twin thing that we thought we were watching the whole time, she's just a kid playing with fire and burns herself and burns the place down and kills everybody. So the Jedi really haven't done too much. So this is the best part. So Torben and Sol arrive in the courtyard, and they aren't trying to fight, or they're not trying to start shit. The coven appears, and then the coven appears, and then Sol asks, how are the twins created? Where did they come from? That changes the tone of everything, and they want to fight the Jedi. So they use their magic. The black lady, the main one, uses her magic and turns into a cloud, like literally a cloud. I'm not joking. She like turns into a black particle dust cloud. And Sol freaks out. He doesn't know what's happening. So he puts his lightsaber into this random cloud, and it turns out to be her chest, and she dies. And she goes, I was going to let her train with you. Why? And then she's fucking dead.
So she turned into like the shadow, like clouded his mind, and then just stabbed her.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So then the witches all attack the Jedi. Master Torben's on the ground. He's got his lightsaber, and the other witches have like a bow and arrow that they're firing at him, because Star Wars has bows and arrows now, but whatever. Sol doesn't want to fight. Like, he understands what happened with the woman and it was a mistake, and he's trying to be like, hey, I'm sorry. And the other space lesbian mom's trying to kill him. And all he does to defend himself is he cuts her staff in half and like tries to push her away. Then she becomes a space cloud herself and infects Kelnaka. the infected Kelnaka fights Torben and Sol, and then like he's kicking their ass. Like, you know, the one guy Torben has all those scars on his face and he's got a fucked up eye.
Yeah.
That we see that happen because Kelnaka's got his lightsaber like right into his face and he's about to cut him up, and then Sol comes in to save him at the last second. And Sol's actually a pretty badass fighter because like he has his lightsaber turned off and he like uses it to like punch the Jedi Wookiee and then knock the lightsaber out of his hand and, you know, kind of take the fight back a little bit. But all of a sudden, Trinity comes down from the spaceship and she uses this Jedi mind trick to wipe the brain of Kelnaka. And when she frees Kelnaka's brain from the invading space lesbian witches, all the other ones just die. Like they just turn over and fall over and die. That's it. It's never and like it's supposed to look like Carrie Ann Moss willingly killed them, but it's not really part of the show. So,
see, she basically pulled the plug on them. It's like they networked in order to create this illusion, and then when you break the network, they all die like the Matrix.
Exactly, like the battle droids, like the Chitauri, all kinds of shit out there. Yes, exactly, Taki. So then Trinity decides, like, look, you need to get these twins out of here. So we go see Sol go after the girls, and this is where they're on that famous catwalk. Why am I saying famous? This show's garbage. Anyway, it's the scene from the third episode where they're on a catwalk, and we see them yelling at each other. What we didn't learn in the third episode is that catwalk had collapsed. It was Sol using the Force to hold it up, and he only has so much Force energy because his power bar is draining, and he can save one girl or the other, but not both. So he uses the Force to save Osha and lets May fall to her death, allegedly. That is his big transgression. But the thing is, May doesn't know that happened. She's not, neither of them are aware that he's there. He's like off to the side doing this, and it's framed where she's on this side, she's on that side, and he's in the middle, but he's further back, so they don't even know he's there. Mm-hmm. So after that happens, they go back to the ship, as we've seen in the episode. Indara says, what have you done? They almost come to fisticuffs, and he's like, I'm going to tell the council the truth. And then she goes, no, you're not. You're not going to tell them the truth. You want this girl. You can't go and basically you can't get yourself arrested. You're now responsible for this kid. And so when May wakes up, or Osha wakes up, she's like, what happened? And then Sol tells her, well, May started a fire and your mother and everyone's dead. And the episode ends with a hip hop song. And that's not an exaggeration. Like, watch the tweet I put out, dude. It's like a rap song about this episode.
Jesus. Oh my God. I mean, that sounds like typical amateur writing. Oh, we're going to have these women who are, yes, I'll let you take my one daughter, but I'm going to do all these things that's going to make it appear though I don't want you to take my kid. And then when you kill me, my last words were, but I was going to let you take my kid. Like, that is so superficial understanding of story structure. And I mean, the concept of the virgins, man, God, it's just all the stuff I said back in Phantom Menace days, like 90, 98, 99, like the moment you make Anakin a chosen one, the moment you say he can be created by life, the moment that you predicate the only reason the dark side was able to take over the galaxy under the Galactic Empire is because one of their acolytes was the most powerful Force user due to magic blood, is something a terrible writer will make even worse years later. And here we are. Here we are.
Yes. Look, if you ever get a chance to watch this episode, maybe if you're looking for something stupid, like if you're really bored, I know you got a girlfriend and a life and jobs and other things that are important, but if you ever find yourself with an extra 30 minutes, like, just watch this. I think you could make a hell of a video on why this writing died. Like, this show spent the last month and a half or so building to this mystery. We're supposed to be like, all these Jedi are evil and all this stuff. It's so underwhelming. It sucks the air out of everything that will happen next week because the motivations are muddy. Nobody is actually right with anything. Like, Sol acted under his best intentions, but ultimately failed. So, but he's not this nefarious guy that they've been trying to paint. Like, I don't really have much investment in it, but I do think Virtual Seder has a great question. Why did Torben feel guilty enough to off himself? I don't know. And I don't know half of the shit that would go down. Like, I guess we learned earlier that May knows that Kilnaka and the other Jedi were there because of, I guess, the Sith told her. But they're not even responsible for any of the shit that went down. Like, Kilnaka got possessed by the lesbian mom, and then they freed him from their wrath, and that killed him. But, like, he didn't do anything. Same thing with Corbin. He was banged by the mom, but, like, it messed with his head, but they didn't do anything. He didn't start this battle. So while everything is kind of messed up at the end of the episode, you're kind of just left scratching your head as to, is this really worth becoming an acolyte of this Sith guy and going and killing people? Like, you started a fire and these people died from other causes. It's just so dumb, man. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, but trying to make sense of this is impossible.
The thing is like being possessed and then manipulated to do harm through your body. That's one thing. But the thing is, like, usually that's a story where the person is trapped within their body, like their mind's trapped in their body, and they see themselves doing it, and they can't do anything to stop it, and that gives them their guilt. That's something that you actually explore with the character. And instead, they're just using all the byproduct of it and then giving you it at arm's length, so that by the end, now that we got to the end of the story, we realize, oh yeah, that's why Torben was so quick to off himself, is because his body was possessed and he was helpless to stop it, and he feels guilty because he was helpless to stop it. It's like, we now as the audience have to write that in ourselves based on the fact that we have seen that story done elsewhere much better. Like, if no one's ever seen that type of story before, they would still be lost. 100%.
Every week I expect this show to entertain me for all the wrong reasons. And now, folks, if you're riding the high of the Jedi lightsabers or the sexy, steamy romance, no, it's not here. And, Script, you're talking about that type of a story. The gaps that you have to fill in, you have to, like, play mental gymnastics for this shit to make sense. If you just watch this, folks, going in, like you're saying, excuse me, it's not going to really be a clear, cogent story. It is written by somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, and the show is created by a committee that thinks this would be fun, this would be cool. Guys, it's stupid, and you've turned off your audience. It doesn't matter that you like their opinions. You want the money, you want their dollars, and you're not getting anything from a lot of people based on a lack of quality. I think the Acolyte goes to show you, Script, that ists and phobes and all the name calling, that is done. That doesn't work anymore. And the only people that are really successful out of this are the people that talk about the dumpster fires and the failures that these shows have become.
And you know what, to your point, I don't know what it was. I saw it on Twitter, but Amanda Steinberg was on The View, I guess, over the last few days. And she basically flat out says, we are open to criticism of the writing and the performance. And I'm like, yeah, good. I know you would be. The only thing she's saying, what's doing now is she's positioning herself and her fellow castmates as victims to online harassment. But again, if you want me to be on your side, if you want the people who are genuine Star Wars fans to be on your side, all you got to do is show the receipt, show what they said, block out their name or their tag of what it is on social media, show the profile picture, show the content. If you want to blur out some of the bad words, go right ahead, but show us that it's happening, because right now you're doing something where it's like a race to see who's the bigger victim. The cast members and the production who's being called names that we can't see, or some of the people that are thinking that those productions are calling us names because we're criticizing them. And that's a 0-1 situation on both sides, where one thing they could do is like, yeah, we hate your show. We think the director is not directing you well. We think the editor is not taking your best takes. And we think the story and plotting is absolutely garbage. But if someone's calling you, derogatory names, we can actually make ourselves look way better in the eyes if we say, yeah, we don't agree with anyone calling them derogatory names. Just tell them how bad their show is. That's all you got to do. Because now you label yourself, or you present yourself basically as saying, no matter what they say about, fan hating, they can't point the finger to us because we're defending her from being, called the bad names. In fact, there's a very few people that actually defended Moses Ingram from all the hate that she was supposedly getting. But that's based on the fact that nobody saw it. Like, if we can't see it, we can't defend you for it.
Exactly. And we were the first, not the first, but we were one of the first people like, man, this character, what was her name? The third sister, Reva. The thing is, the performance was not that great, and the payoff was not good at all. I did not like the character, but I didn't have to say anything bad about the lady. Did she write the story that, oh, she'll get stabbed through the chest with a lightsaber and just live happily ever after? No, she didn't make up that crap. Like with Rose Tico and the Ray, whoever played her,
Daisy
actress.
Ridley, yeah. Social
Yeah.
media didn't ruin pull her off. It was other issues with regards to social media and how Disney was lording over their talent, which is what they do, which is why, I've never been a fan of them. Why I thank my parents for saying, you know what, if you want to see a Disney movie now, we'll show you a really good movie instead. And that's what I ended up seeing. Like, again, the only kids Disney movies I really saw growing up was like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Tron, and I think maybe Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I think I saw that as a kid. I can't remember. I know I saw it as a teenager because I saw one that had Carrie Russell in it, and she's hot. So,
I mean, I grew up with a lot of Disney movies, but my favorite stuff wasn't the Disney stuff. My grandma would buy me every Disney movie on tape the day it came out. I'd come home from kindergarten, grade school, you name it. If there was a Disney VHS tape that was out that Tuesday, my grandma had it for me waiting at home. Cool. So that was always like a fun thing to do. But I stopped seeking these movies out in theaters in the 90s. Mulan was the last Disney movie I saw in a theater until The Princess and the Frog. Well, I take that back. Sorry. I did see Toy Story 2, but that's Pixar, and I've always kind of kept that as a separate thing. But I never liked their stuff as the premier anything. Like growing up, if you look at my toy collection back here, folks, Disney didn't own Power Rangers back then. They don't own them anymore. They didn't own Marvel. Marvel was its own beast. Wrestling's always been its own thing. Back to the Future, all these things, none of them were owned by Disney. You did have a lot of Disney shows, and the movies were big, but you could live a very full childhood without having to watch any Disney shows. To me, the Disney shows were like what girls watched, or the kids who weren't allowed to watch Power Rangers or Batman, or these more violent shows. I definitely, at least in my social circle, we always judged the Disney kids as the soft kids because they just didn't like anything good.
I mean, not only I understood the softness, but they're the ones that I always saw that through the biggest temper tantrums, like of all of them. It's like, I want to see my Mickey Mouse. I'm like, it's a cartoon mouse. Like, listen, there's lots of stuff I wanted to see as a kid that I was really eager to, but I never was able to throw a tantrum to it. The only thing that got really upset, I didn't get to see the first 3 minutes of the premiere of the Lois and Clark live action TV show with Dean Cain, because my mom was still watching the news and it was going over the time frame. And I was like, it's the Gulf War. Nobody cares. At this point.
You were right. I loved that show. I know people want to, bitch about stuff on Twitter. I liked Dean Cain. I thought he was a good Superman.
Yeah, he is.
It was a fun show.
He got to say some of the most Superman-y lines in live action that are sorely missed, like, these days. And I hope we get some of that with Superman under James Gunn's thing. They're getting close to ending production over in your neighborhood, which is pretty neat.
Yeah, I signed up to be an extra in that movie. I just never heard anything back because they ask your size, and I was at the top of the tier of, the size. I was like, well, I'm too big to play a cop. I get it. But I tried. That would have been cool to be in the
extra
movie.
casting directors love tall people. Because you put them in the background, they balance out everything. I mean, their favorite are, of course, people with lots of tattoos and piercings and stuff because
I don't have any.
Visually interesting. Yeah. I got friends who are like got body cover tattoos. They just want a few of them at the first, and then they got hired for extra work and they pays really well for the stuff. And they're like, the more tattoos, the more work I get. So yeah, my buddy's got tattoos from like his neck all the way down his arms, and a couple on his chest and a few on his ankle and stuff. But it's funny because he's like, yeah, all of these, and the tattoos are all weird images that reflect the movies and television shows he's extra on. So it's really cool. Kind of neat. It's like he's got an archive of what tattoo for what production. And the best part is like, it's weird things that are obscure enough. Like he has photos that he took of him and his friends in the background or something, where he sees like behind the facade of a set that he gets tattooed on him. So even if they on film, you'd never realize that facade, the rear of this facade, is like something on the back of well, for instance, Suicide Squad. One of my buddies, who was an extra on Suicide Squad when I was working on set deck, we were calling each other every once in a while, like, what day are you going to be on set today? I'm like, I'm on this day. Well, I'm not on this day. Here, well, I'll see if I can swing by and say hey and whatnot. And it's funny. And then he gets a tattoo the hotel room set, which wasn't a real hotel room, we built that. And he has a picture of himself and a couple of friends that I took of him, and he got that tattooed on his calf. So
he's like that Ray Bradbury book, The Tattooed Man. Each one, I love that book.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so cool. I mean, it sucks that they didn't bring you in there because that would have been really awesome.
I'd have loved if people were like, "Hey, Jeff, were you in Superman?" Yep, I was in the background.
Yeah.
It was like that Eminem song, Superman video. I was in the back. There we go. That movie? I think they're in Cleveland still. I don't think they're in Cincy.
Yeah, you're right. They're still in Cleveland. Let me see if I got the production notes.
Maybe I'll sneak, because here's the thing. I live like 10 minutes from where they're going to shoot it. I will go down there, folks, and at least, walk around, see what's up, see what I can bring you.
Because I'm looking here. They're actually in the region that's right at the border of Cincinnati. So yeah, it's actually not far from where your region. So yeah, you could probably like go get some cool behind the scenes shots from your camera for the channel.
That's the plan. I'm gonna go down there one day, folks, and just be like, "Hey guys, there's Superman." I can guarantee you that James Gunn's Superman will be better than what I watched with the Acolyte. I know people are like, "I don't trust James Gunn." Hey, that's fine. I get it, man. I didn't think Guardians 3 was great, but I didn't think it was bad either. But I did think the Acolyte was so bad to the point of this is the penultimate episode. What happened to structuring a show that kept an audience engaged for an entire series? People aren't sticking through this show because it goes nowhere. It is a show that goes from, hey, we're going to tell you about this character and why it's important to, oh, they're not in this one. And then it does it multiple times in a season. I can understand one flashback episode, but the fact that you tried to build up so much intrigue and mystery around a lie, and you didn't even, like, the audience didn't get deceived or weren't in, like, we were in on it all, and it wasn't compelling. Like, when I watch a mystery, I want to be outsmarted for a minute at least. I want to be like, oh, I didn't see that he would have been the guy or this or that. This is like, it literally is like, hey, folks, this is the Acolyte, and here's all the spoilers. Watch it anyway. That's what I felt like.
Yeah, it does feel like that. And I mean, even the way that your notes, the way that you wrote them, they sound with good potential on paper. But the thing is, you have to explore all those options to their fullest if you want to actually stick the landing that you're trying to target. In this case here, I'm more surprised by the fact that we didn't get another excuse interrupting Saul from telling us what happened in that flashback. I thought they were going to say that to the very, very, very end, because all we've been getting is this dragged out unnatural delays of story beats so far. Because here's the question, right? All right, so how does Kinnear fit in all of this now?
Oh yeah,
right. Like, that's a pretty big, question to have. And I mean, I guess this is where some significant budget went to in this episode because of the shadow special effects. I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out here because it's, again, $180 million across 7 episodes. That's not going to be evenly distributed. I don't know where it is.
There's some CGI, like there's a couple of speeder bike shots. They don't look great. And folks, I'm not trying to be nitpicky, but when we are told how expensive a show is, $180 million. This shit cost more than Beverly Hills Cop 4. And Beverly Hills Cop 4 was mostly practical in this and that, but it was a movie and it looked really good. At no point did it look like a Netflix movie. Did it look small to me? I wish they would have put it out in theaters. But this show is supposed to have the same budget as a Star Wars movie, but they can't get the things right. Like, they did it right with The Mandalorian. When he's on the docking bays of spaceships, or he's going down the corridor of that prison in that bitchin' episode, you felt like you were in something cool. This show, I think they spent all the money on building this compound, like this real set that they did all the witchy shit in. I think that was real. And I know building a real set is nowhere near as expensive as CGI. I get that. But I'm really pulling at straws here because, like, other than that, lightsaber effects can be done in After Effects. People on the internet do better.
Did I freeze or did you freeze? Because that's a good freeze frame you've got going on there. I think I froze. Guys in the chat, who froze? Is it you or me? Oh, he did. Okay, so Jeff froze. All right. So, well, he comes back. That is, it's crazy. But he, to his point, absolutely yes. When you're dealing with a $180 million television show, you should be able to see every single cent on screen. What's kind of troubling is the fact that even building physical sets do not cost that much. The labor is relatively cheap. You're only building facades. You're doing it in a pinch. Heck, in some cases, all you really need is like chicken wire, tin foil, and some fiberglass and fiberglass resin. And you can do wonders with that after a coat of paint. And the people that can do that are the best in the business. They make the most convincing sets. I'm wondering if it had to do with travel expenses, securing locations. Gosh, who knows what it could have really been? But it's crazy because Jeff was talking about, yes, After Effects for lightsabers is quite easy because all you got to do is just have a rod of any particular color and you can just replace it in post. What I do notice that Disney is doing is they're not just using simple rods. They're actually using thicker rods that actually emit a light so that they can bounce the light off the actors as opposed to doing that digitally in post or doing that in other types of compositing effects, which I think is silly because I don't know about you, but every lightsaber we've seen in the Disney Star Wars take has not looked great. They looked kind of bulky, kind of like off the shelf type of thing. Yeah, it's crazy. And so until Jeff returns, it's WCS High Council with me, the script doctor, covering for Jeff. I guess we're kind of lucky I showed up because if I wasn't here and he froze, the stream would have gone silent for now. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he's gonna send a DM or do a reset any moment now. He'll be back. It's his show. It's his stuff. I kind of wish I was able to actually see you guys, see the show for you guys, so I could actually elaborate more on its flaws. Sadly, whatever internet issues Jeff was having have also occurred with me with regards to connecting to the portal to watch Disney, the Acolyte. But man, it's kind of sad. I'm going to do a full video of this season because there are things that I can actually teach people about how this, what works for it and what doesn't. And what works for it is going to be very short. What doesn't work is going to be quite long. But I've only seen the first 6 episodes. I'll see the 7th one probably later. And I will say this, after the first 6 episodes, I still think it's slightly better written than Ahsoka. You can disagree with me. I completely understand that. But yeah, at least there's something that they're trying to, there's some sort of story they're trying to tell, but they're just not telling it well. And from what Jeff described of the secondary flashback, which is that these witches have found another force technique that makes them appear to be clouds, and they can infect the person's mind and put them in some sort of state, is it's kind of pedestrian, if you ask me. It just feels like they're not having fun with what the Force is, and again, retreading other ideas, the versions, the one soul in 2 bodies type of thing. That they're something suggests that if that's the whole center pillar of this story, that there's some sort of like button that they're going to put on top of that with the final episode. So I'm curious what you guys are in the chat. Unfortunately, I can't highlight anything, but I can read what you guys are saying. So what sort of theories do you have as to how Khmer got involved in all of this? Because I can't fathom his point. It's like, okay, so what? May is left all alone on this planet, and how does it work? Did he also sense the virgins as well? And when he got there, he decided to take advantage of May and train her as his apprentice or acolyte so that he can slaughter his master or what have you. I don't know. It seems like we just don't have more of the flashbacks. We don't have enough exposition with regards to the setup to how all these characters got into this place, right? So, Casperius, who is Khmer again? I only know the characters by description. Khmer is Smilo Ren. He's the one that was the thirst trap from the last week's episode for all the ladies. Yeah, I just don't. I don't know, man. It's a weird show. Welcome back, sir.
I don't know what's going on with the internet here. Everything in my place just dropped, but I went out to check my router and the internet modem fully connected. I don't know what's going on here.
Hey, no worries. Just vamping here with the chat, covering what you said, not covering up, covering what you said with regards to like
where you're not the Jedi, going. Are you?
No, I'm not the Jedi.
Good.
Yeah, but I do have a screen capture of the face that you made while you were frozen. You looked kind of stoned. It was kind of funny. I'll send it to you.
I was like, what?
But
perfect.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know where they're going with this story. I mean, and one part I'm like, oh, I'm kind of fascinated because I don't know where I'm going. But the other part is like, I would really like at least a sense of direction. That'd be kind of funny, be fun. Wouldn't be funny. It's the show's already funny. It doesn't need any more humor, really.
Unintentionally funny, but still, at least you feel something when you watch it.
I mean, listen, I've already been able to compartmentalize the OT since the prequel trilogy. Be like, listen, if the prequel trilogy can make me not like original Star Wars, then listen, Disney can try all they want. I already have separated it. It's got a blood barrier that's protecting it from infection. So yeah, I'm not bothered by that part, but it's just it's kind of peculiar because premise alone of, hey, yeah, did these Jedi kill this witch coven and want to steal children? That's a good question. What happens at the end of it? Well, no, they didn't want to. What ends up happening is some of the witch covens kind of attacked, but not really attacked the Jedi, and in their defense, but not really defense, they killed one of them, and then all of a sudden they broke a connection, and then all of them died, and now Sol is only able to rescue one of them, which is weird because I'm thinking of it as a Jedi. If you're strong enough to hold up a bridge for two people, why not just shift your focus to hold the two people? Because they're clearly both lighter than the bridge. Because again, even though size matters not, and you have to unlearn what you have learned, even the mind trick of two, 11-year-old girls who are probably no more than 60 to 70 pounds each is significantly lighter than the mental image of a metal bridge. So how could you not hold both?
Come on, man. Don't try to think about these things too much. You'll hurt yourself because they don't. There we go. There's some more light. Now I can be seen fully. There we go.
Yeah.
I want to know what they can do in the last 30 minutes of this show that'll tie everything together, because it may not be up to my liking. It may not be my cup of tea. This was earlier. But my point is, you got to come up with something that'll tie this story together. And so many of my complaints and critiques of this show are from a lack of logic in the storytelling, or a lack in logic of the structure. Like, this is supposed to be murder mystery Star Wars. You couldn't get Rian Johnson to do this one. Like, even he would have done a better job than Leslie Headland. By the way, have you seen the nickname people in the chat are calling her Lesbian Headband?
Okay. I mean, I haven't seen her wear a headband, but okay. Yeah, sure.
That just sounds like a band. That's all.
It really does. It sounds like a rival to like something like Steel Panther. Like Steel Panther versus Lesbian Headband. Rock of Ages, Battle of the Bands type of thing. And did he freeze again? Poor guy.
No, I'm back, I think.
Okay, now you're back. Yeah. You glitched out there for a second.
Yeah, I'm on a VPN right now, so not a VPN. I'm on a mobile hotspot to try to get this to connect. I don't know what's going on. Thank you, Lord Nero. I have the pinkest lips he's ever seen. Well, they're not really that pink. I'm just lit that way. But thank you. And now I'm pixelated, they say, too. Well, folks, welcome in. It's National Video Game Day. WCBS is now 8-bit WCBS. Folks in the chat, tell me your favorite 8-bit video game. Mine is Super Mario Brothers. But, Script, in the next week or so, we're going to have a resolution to the most disappointing Star Wars show. The Book of Boba Fett was bad. Ahsoka was kind of crappy, but Acolyte is next level stupid, and I really love the apathy the fans have for this show. Like, they're here for us. We're having a great time. But you guys could not care less to watch this show, and that goes to show you how bad a brand has been mismanaged. If this show was as great as everyone thought, then everyone would be lining up to buy the toys and wear the shirt and download the show. But I was talking to a friend. The pirating website they use doesn't even have this show up to date because there's not enough demand. That is not a good sign.
No, that is definitely not a good sign. That is, I mean, that's a great sign for I guess Disney Plus, the company be like, okay, so even the pirates aren't going to go after this. Great. So then only the people that are watching this are going to be subscribers. And then you're going to see the metrics of that is going to drop like a brick. Really. Just, there's nothing else you can do at this point.
No, and there's really nothing else I want them to do. I've reached the point where it's just more of an academic or a work-based thing for us. But with Star Wars, you were talking about you've compartmentalized certain things. I thought I had. That HasLab shut down yesterday. Didn't want to get it. And it's the Cantina. And folks, this is an exaggeration. I do have Star Wars collectibles. I just don't talk about them or put them on my shelves because I'm kind of burnt out. But this little box right here I found from back in the day. It's full of figures like Han Solo or Jango Fett. But it even has new Han Solo figures that I just bought because I still like the character. But my point is, I've given up that I couldn't even invest in something from one of my favorite scenes in my former favorite movie. Like, they've now lost me. I've reached that point. So,
Well,
Rob Brand.
Sorry. I haven't purchased any Star Wars stuff. God, since the Disney acquisition, actually, like none. I mean, even the two Cara Dune figures I have, my girlfriend bought that for me, and that's the only new Disney Star Wars stuff I've got. Everything else is still the classic Powers of the Force, 4 3/4 figures. I've got a couple of the Micro Machine, X-Wing, A-Wing, Y-Wing, and Millennium Falcon. I don't have the B-Wing because, I mean, the B-Wing's all right, but it's not a good-looking ship. It's kind of stupid. But, yeah, like, it's just, why? I mean, the money's going to go not to the people that made Star Wars anymore. So why buy Star Wars stuff, right?
I agree. A lot of my prime Star Wars days, surprisingly, I don't know if it was when I was a child or there was a window of time between 2004 to 2010 or 11 where I bought so many Star Wars figures. Hell, I had a girlfriend in college that would buy them for me as a gift. We'd go out, I'd take her something, she'd bring me Star Wars figures. I don't care if it sounds lame. It was a girlfriend doing it, so whatever. But I used to love this stuff, man. Like, me and my friends in college would sit around at the cafeteria after the fucking thing was closed and they'd want us to leave. We'd be sitting talking about the Force, or we'd talk about the EU novels. We'd be talking about there's a book called, like, not Shadows of Evil, but something of Evil that takes place between 3 and 4, and it's all about Palpatine. I think it's written by James Luceno. Like, we were really into this stuff, and now, like, just 10 years of disappointment, man. 12 years. Well, no, sorry, 9. I'm jumping the gun. Force Awakens is not a decade old yet. Feels like it, though.
Since it's literally only about 6 months, a year away. Sorry, a year away from being a decade old. Ah, gosh,
that movie changed my life, literally.
You know what's ironic is that Disney buys Star Wars in 2012, and they decide, 2015, that's the year we should bring another Star Wars movie. No, not 2017 on the anniversary, the 40th anniversary of Star Wars. We're going to do it 2 years earlier because we don't know how to sell crap.
It's not like you had an Avengers movie to make you $1 billion that summer, like, and that was pretty solid too. So
that it's to the point. The fact is, okay, they bought Star Wars. Well, you know what? Start pumping up the brand. Do some retrospective, start doing some re-releases, start doing something small in Star Wars to show people that you've got it, and then announce that you're making a Star Wars movie for 2017 in 2014, 2015. And there you go. The 40th anniversary of Star Wars is back in theaters. And then you just do the whole thing. You do a whole event leading up to it, just like what Lucas did before the prequel trilogy, where he had the special editions re-released in theaters. Do Disney, do that. get people excited for Star Wars again. And then, you're still probably going to make the same amount that you made in 2015, except now you've got the anniversary aspect onto it. You've got the prestige. You can now sell anniversary editions on physical media of that movie instead of, well, it's 2015, so it doesn't have any special connection to it at all, other than it's like what, it's 10 years after it's 10 years after the last movie. And it's like, really? It's just really.
There's a point in time where all those movies, at least that one, felt like it was just trying to undo or dunk on the prequels. And you and I are not prequel lovers or enthusiasts at all. But I always thought that was kind of a dumb, lame thing to try to like, oh, we're gonna forget those ones, folks. We're gonna be as good as the old ones. It's like, look, you just copied the old ones, and now that you're doing original things, here we are.
Especially with the first line of that movie, this will begin to make things right. How ironic that line was said, and by Emperor Ming of all people.
I know he's old, and Max von Sydow's been in a ton of stuff, but
I love Max von Sydow. Yeah,
I do too.
I mean, my fix for The Force Awakens, the simple way, would be Max von Sydow's character is really just a Force camouflage projection of Luke Skywalker. Like, that's Luke Skywalker. He's just it clouded everyone's minds to make him look like Max von Sydow. Don't have him killed, have him captured, and then have Rey find him. And then when she finds him, he's like, oh, good, you're here. And then he uses the Force to unbuckle himself and free himself from there. He's like, this is the only way I could actually find a way to connect with you, because the Force guided me to you in this way. Come on, let's go help these guys destroy this base, because I've already sabotaged certain aspects of it while waiting for you. And it's like, oh, that's kind of badass moment. Luke is actually doing stuff. The whole he's been missing and all that stuff, all just a ruse, just to throw off the First Order and stop and find out what they were planning. That would have been great, because it would have shown how powerful the New Republic is, how clever and inventive the Jedi have become. And then you can end it with that celebration, like what we had at the end of A New Hope, except this time it's Luke's Jedi Order, and he's the one that's presenting a medal to, I guess, Finn and Han and whatever. Like, it's just silly stuff, but it's like, just get Luke involved into the story, because what they were trying to do is they're like, we're gonna make 3 New Hopes. That's our goal. We're gonna have Han be Obi-Wan in The Force Awakens. We're gonna have Luke be Obi-Wan in The Last Jedi. We're gonna have Leia be Obi-Wan in the last one, and they're all gonna have the same fate. And then we're gonna do a little Force Ghost thing at the very end, like at the end of Jedi. Like, that was their essential plan. Rian Johnson threw a little bit of a monkey wrench into there, but that's essentially what they were trying to do, and they did it, and they did it horribly.
Dude, horribly is an understatement. I can't do anything but laugh at this point, to be perfectly honest with you, man. At first, I felt like I was just a crazy guy yelling into the void that this thing sucked. And then The Last Jedi came out, and everyone was like, oh, yeah. So Disney Star Wars has never been good, folks. And here we are, 9 years going on 10. Somebody in the chat earlier said, like, you can't fix it. I agree. I'm giving up on it.
No.
It's
at
so
this
weird.
Point, you can't do anything. Listen, the only way you can actually fix this is just you tell stories that take place before Episode 7, and you never cross that threshold.
There you go. You could have your CGI Han, Luke, and Leia animated features. People would watch those. Ugh. I do think they've successfully conditioned the audience to not want those characters anymore, or any character for that matter. But I do think that demand, like, remember how people used to be, oh, I never got to see Han, Luke, and Leia together on screen. A lot of people were angry about that. Now they're just like, they don't seem to give a shit anymore.
You know what? The fact of the matter is that you kind of don't need to see them on screen anymore, at least at this point in the way things are being done. It's like, if you did see them on screen, it'd be in a Disney Star Wars story, and we've seen how those go. So yeah, no, I'll pass. Thank God. I mean, it's just terrible that we lost Carrie Fisher so soon, and because don't get me wrong, after those final movies, she would have been the first one out there to make fun of them, because heck, she made fun of the prequel, she made fun of the original trilogy. She loved doing that type of stuff. Most of the humor was an endearing aspect of things. So even though she'd be like, she probably would have had some sort of bit where she thought she was going to be the only one that survives out of the three, and then find out later that she gets, killed or what have you. Yeah. I mean, I've seen her specials, her one woman shows that she's done. She's done like 2 or 3 of them. Every single one is incredibly entertaining. Great Hollywood stories, great personal strife. The fact that her picture as Princess Leia is used in the medical dictionary for bipolar disorder is hysterical and was accurate at the time. I think they changed that recently, but I mean, the fact that she could
Really?
laugh at herself for that. What was that? Sorry.
I didn't realize that was a real thing.
Yeah. I thought it was a joke too until my aunt was like, "No, that's real." And when she was in college in the early 90s, that was in her Princess Leia and a couple other people were cited as examples of bipolar disorder. I thought I was like, "Oh wow, that's I didn't think they'd go there." Yeah, me neither. But
I always
one
liked
thing
her for many reasons.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, it's okay because you're dealing with some internet connectivity issues. But I will say this. You know what? Star Wars is still Star Wars. We had it good when we had it good. It's gone the way of some other IPs, sadly. And instead of it just going off into the sweet good night like it was kind of doing after 2005 when the Clone Wars is kind of wrapping up, it burst into flames and is streaking across the night sky. So
it is interesting to say the least. Folks, just a second here. If my internet's acting slow, I apologize. I've upgraded, I've done other things, but for some reason, maybe. No, we're not going to go down there. We'll keep our tinfoil hats off. But no, folks, just a second here. Script, I got to say, man, I'm not really looking forward to next week, but part of me really can't wait to see how they drop the ball. Like, imagine, like, folks, here's my bad sports analogy. This is an Olympic athlete trying to land like a triple Lindy, but they have broken ankles, but they have to land it perfectly. And even if they do, they're still fucked up. And that's kind of how I feel about the Acolyte. You could have the best episode ever next week, and you have like one good episode for an entire series. That is not a good amount. You need more than that, folks. You need a lot more from the Acolyte. I need a lot more from the Acolyte. I want to be fair. I want to be honest with these things, but all I see is the meta narrative around this show. All I see is people talking about how bad it is. Nobody praises it. And you got the defenders of it that are putting out garbage articles like at Forbes today. Like, that's why I brought it up. Rob says it's funny how Rotten Tomatoes turned off the score before this episode. Apparently it came back on because the dude over at Forbes was like, "That's not how the site works. I'm a contributor, blah, blah, blah." Have you heard the story about them shutting off the Rotten Tomatoes score?
Yeah, this is actually something that's I've seen happen a number of times since Rotten Tomatoes was purchased. And it's not something that normally happens as a result of like the studio saying, "Hey, don't let the people know what the audience score is." It's usually someone has just screwed up somewhere with an update, and it because of the ripple effect. But this one here, because it wasn't just Acolyte that the audience score was gone from. I've actually, if you kept on drilling down to per episodes, you'd end up seeing the audience score again. But it was also a number of other films as well. And I'm like, okay, so if this is a conspiracy, they're doing their darndest to cover it up and make it look like it's just a site glitch. But no, I thought that was kind of funny because when there is no audience score, by default, you have to call it a 0, which means that it is now officially the lowest performing audience rated Star Wars of anything ever. Which is kind of funny because the Christmas holiday special is what, 20%? Acolyte was last seen 14%, then 0, and I think it's back up now to still 14%.
There are positives to the holiday special. The Boba Fett cartoon, the deleted scenes from Star Wars that people didn't realize were deleted scenes from Star Wars. Hell, they even used actual movie footage of the Falcon flying around. So maybe in 1978, you're like, "Oh, I love Star Wars. It was the greatest movie I've ever seen." And then you go and watch that on TV and it's shit. But at least there's clips of the movie you like that isn't available on home video yet because that doesn't really, well, it exists, but you don't have one. There are positives you can pull from it. I can't find positives from the Acolyte. I just kind of beat my head against the wall, metaphorically speaking, of the at the thought of the people who can't comprehend that people don't like this show. We call it mental gymnastics all the time. The fact that they go each week and try to defend the crap and come up with new ways. Like last week, they're trying to say it's so sexy and, you know, you need this kind of crap. And I'm like, what are we talking about here? This is supposed to be a galaxy far, far away, not Twilight, not who else is 50 Shades of Grey. Like, who needs to see a naked Sith Lord? Not me. Okay. I mean, most people here didn't want to see a naked Sith Lord, but we got it.
Yeah, we got it for no reason other than, oh, let's just do it. I mean, that's the thing that bothers me is it's this whole like, mentality of, okay, so we recognize the fan base is a certain age and maybe a portion of them are embarrassed that they liked this property. So let's make it a little edgy so they feel less embarrassed and they can point to it and be like, see, it was always cool. This is what has happened with Batman a number of times where they're always trying to make it darker, more serious, more gritty because they have this preconceived notion that Batman is for kids. And like, it kind of is. It's an inspirational story for kids. It should be accessible. But then you get into the 80s where you got the Dark Knight Returns. You then have a death in the family. And one of the pivotal plot points of that in the first act of A Death in the Family is they're busting a CP ring. And it's like, this is, I mean, listen, that's good that the bad guys are doing this, but this is information that your average reader between the ages of 8 and 14 really shouldn't be exposed to as a concept yet at this point. And yet that's what they were doing because they had to be edgy because the fan base was shrinking and the people that were buying those books were getting older. And so they said, well, we need to do more mature stories to hold on to them. We can't just keep on doing, you know, the Riddler robs a bank and has a bunch of puzzles that confound Batman and Robin for 4 issues. We got to do something darker and grittier. And that has now translated onto the movie side of things. With regards to Star Wars, I was on Versus Monday and while I definitely respect Dante and RMB's opinion that, oh yeah, in war, you got to have to do bad things. It's like, but that's to other war stories. That's not to a Star Wars story. In a Star Wars story, the rebels actually have a moral code, and it serves what the whole premise of it is, which is that we know they're absolutely the good guys because even in war, they're not going to harm innocent people or hurt their own people just for the sake of a small victory. And that's what makes Star Wars part of Star Wars. That's what Luke Skywalker does. The only enemies they're fighting are the Empire. And if you're not the Empire, you're not on their radar. And, you know, you have this famous Kevin Smith speech in Clerks where, you know, Luke Skywalker blew up the Death Star. He killed all those contractors. The Death Star was completed, man. I've never known a contractor to stay more than 10 minutes after finishing a job. Like if once it's operational and they blew up Alderaan, I think every independent contractor that was working there to make sure that thing is done, they're out. Because again, it's a mobile space station, lots of places to park a ship. They're gone, man. Only people that are on that Death Star at that point, when it's fully completed and moving from sector to sector, going towards Yavin 4, that's all Empire, man, 100%. And Luke blowing that up, that's a defensive act. That's not just a straightforward attack like a terrorist cell or anything of that nature. And there's a reason that it's done that way. Because the Galactic Empire is an imposing force that has invaded the sovereignty of all other systems. They're always on the attack. You, as the Rebel Alliance, is on the defensive. The most aggressive thing they've done is they struck an Imperial base to get the plans for the Death Star because they know of this secret super weapon and they want to figure out what it can do and see if there's a way they can stop it. They're not trying to take. You know what? If it was if Tony Gilroy were doing Star Wars, he would actually have the Rebel Alliance take over the Death Star, and then they would use that and bring it to Coruscant and threaten to destroy the planet if the Emperor isn't given up, because that's what people in wartime do. It's like, but that's not Star Wars, man.
No, Star Wars is a fairy tale with a slight edge. It's a little more violent than a normal kids movie, but it's way tamer than a lot of other sci-fi because it's space fantasy essentially. And fairy tales are violent in their nature. I mean, Hansel and Gretel, they throw a witch in an oven, burn her alive. That's pretty horrific. but she was a witch and deserved it.
Yes,
No,
but still,
oh no,
kids don't want to call their mom a witch one day when they get upset and they want to push her in an oven. I'm like, no, don't do that.
no. I will say though, Tales from the Dark Side of the movie, Dark Side of the movie has the best Hansel and Gretel story where Debbie Harry gets pushed into the oven by Matthew Lawrence. That's a good movie.
I remember that.
Well, you're talking about these characters, and Enrique, we're going to read your message in just a moment, but that's kind of why I was really happy with Beverly Hills Cop 4, because the world and the characters operate the same way as they used to, which means it's not about living in the past, folks. When you're making something based on something, it has to fit in the thing that exists first. You can't go back and go, well, I don't like this anymore, so we're going to change it. No, you can't revise history. Everyone's going to remember that. It's like George Lucas can't undo the original Star Wars, and no matter how dedicated he is to make, 4 special edition versions of A New Hope, the original cut is out there because of the fans, because you guys remember it because it was impactful. You can't just get away with this crap.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was mixed with Beverly Hills Cop because I liked Eddie Murphy. I thought he was playing it older fully, and it kind of worked for what he was trying to do. Taggart, on the other hand, didn't feel authentic.
No.
And I think him and the fact that the actress who played Jane, there's the story of how they got to that relationship is far more interesting than the story we got in the movie. And that bothered me. And I mean, I wrote a text review on my Patreon. I strongly advise everyone to go read it. It's a lot of fun. I break down a lot of things. I can tell that they had to cut some stuff and reshuffle their third act because it goes from goes from night to day in a single sequence. When they rescue Billy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, that's kind of weird. But I would have really preferred if they weren't so afraid to put Abbott and Jane still in a relationship as opposed to having broken up. I would have much rather seen Eddie Murphy, the protective father, in that mode, talk with Abbott as opposed to a guy who's like, well, they're broken up. Okay, that's it. We're just going to focus on the case now. But I will say this: the movie really does love Axel Foley as a character. And that's a really good positive for it. And Eddie Murphy actually knows what type of movie this is. Whereas in Beverly Hills Cop 3, he didn't want it to be a comedy, or at least a mix between action comedy as the previous 2 entries were. So yeah, I mean, I'm mixed on it. I mean, it's not better than number 1, and it's not better than number 2. I kind of have to vacillate between 3 and 4, but I will say this: I really liked Billy Rosewood in 4 more so than how he was in 3. He was more like how he should have been in 3. And I liked Kevin Bacon's character. I thought he was, good actor, good thing. I like the idea of corrupt cops having infiltrated the department and nobody knowing who to trust. I'm like, oh, they could only have explored that more. And when I was looking at the writing credits, I'm like, oh, you got Will Beal came up with the story, the guy who helped Chris Terrio with Zack Snyder's crap that he did with the Snyderverse. Okay, that makes sense. And then you've got the 2 guys that wrote Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which was a great Nick Cage, Pedro Pascal film. And you can tell, oh, they came in here to actually make this trying to be good. And you're like, okay, I can kind of see the tug of war here between what they're trying to do based off the first draft and what they're trying to patch up with it to make this work. And the practical effects were great. I mean, the only digital in there were gun muzzle flashes. And, they used squibs, they used explosions. They had the helicopter stuff was fantastic. There's one janky part when they're taking off that didn't feel right. I think they screwed up with the composite there, but it looked like it was definitely a well-produced and good-looking film. And the fact that they've got a second one with Netflix makes me kind of excited for number 5 to see what they do with that.
Like I had said before you showed up, or maybe it was when you showed up here at the beginning, like I was happy with this movie a lot. And I'm writing a review, folks. It's a very elaborate one. I might even wear my Axel Foley jacket, which is, right here. This is all I'll show you of it. But I was on board with that. My only big complaint was Taggart. My first complaint was every other character felt authentic as an older version of the character that came before. This wasn't like Luke Skywalker who used the Force and died, or Han Solo who became an asshole because his kid was evil or some dumb shit. That's what I want to stress out there, folks, is like legacy sequels suck on 9 times out of 10. Top Gun Maverick is the one that people seem to love. I like Beverly Hills Cop 4 as much as Maverick. I'm not a Top Gun guy, but I am a Beverly Hills Cop guy, and I know the dumbest details about the movie. But I also know what makes it feel like Beverly Hills Cop and what doesn't. And this one does.
Yeah.
First off, three's terrible. I hate that movie with a passion.
You're robbed with a love story. That's the thing. They tease you with a love story. They give you 3 scenes that are less than a minute length in each one.
Yep.
And then that's it. You're like, son of a, come on, man. This is supposed to be the first time Axel's going to get something. and you're just going to skirt around it.
It was, I've read a couple books on movies over the last year that have actually talked about Beverly Hills Cop 3 in every one. And it's a movie that nobody really wanted to be a part of. And nobody really wanted it to be what it should have been. This one, I feel like Eddie Murphy is back in the right headspace because, you don't want to dunk on an actor constantly, but like whatever he was told between 1990 and with the few exceptions over the years, like overall, he's made a lot of weird creative decisions. Dare I say bad creative decisions. I like The Clumps and The Nutty Professor and Bowfinger. I think Bowfinger is one of his best movies. But like Pluto Nash or even I Spy or Meet Dave or 1,000 Words, like Eddie Murphy has made some bad decisions. Tower Heist could have been great. It was not. But then Dolomite
hit his focus. Yeah, because he didn't come back until Dolomite Is My Name, because that's Eddie Murphy doing an Eddie Murphy movie.
Yep. And I loved that. And I thought he did great on SNL. And then Coming to America came out, and that was terrible. But this one, it is Axel Foley. And the only thing that they changed, and I don't think I would talk about this in a lot of reviews because I don't think people would get it without seeing the movie, is like he became hyper aware of certain racial comments, but then he's more racist in his language in this movie. And I don't think people really catch on it with it because it's, he'll talk about Pappy versus Pop Pop or something or whatever. He gets offended or something. And you're like, oh, is that woke? But then like literally the next scene, he's dropping the N-word and saying shit that he normally doesn't say in these movies. Like, you're like, oh, yeah, okay. So it's like a different, it's just a different version. Well, it's the same character, just doing different shit or worried about different things, but it's all funny. Like he can't say sex or fucking. He only says intercourse when he's talking about his daughter's relationship. And it's so awkward, but it's like intentionally funny. And I loved him. I thought Axel Foley was done right. Billy, everybody except Taggart. And my complaint with Taggart was he only refers to him as Axel once they become friends. He's never Foley. And I know that's a dumb thing to say, but if every other character is true to how they talk, Taggart's the one that it's like as fake as his hair dye. He's there to be there. If anything, fuck you. Ronnie Cox is still alive. The only character you're missing is Bogomil, and he's still around. So you should have thrown him in there because he's just as old. And then you could have. It would be
funny if he was the commissioner. So he's the commissioner, and then you got Taggart as the chief. But the thing is, yeah, you're right. Like Taggart just was not Taggart. Because I was watching this and I'm thinking, okay, if this was written by someone that actually wrote police procedurals, Taggart would have believed Billy. Billy leaving the force and starting his own PI would have been a ruse to basically distract whoever Taggart suspected was dirty, so that he could reach out to Foley without being observed and say, hey, Axel, we need you to come in here as a third party to help us weed out who we suspect being a bad cop. We know that you've got a nose for it. It's been a frog in a slowly boiling pot of water. We can't figure out who's who. We need your fresh eyes because you've got the eye for it. Come help us out. And everything is all just Taggart's playing the fool who's like, yeah, no, it was just powder. It wasn't cocaine. We tested it. Taggart would be like, we tested it. It came back as simple powder. It's like, well, who would package powder that way? Who would transport powder? Why would criminals transport powder in this way only for it to be a ruse? It's like, it doesn't add up. So that should be the red flag for him and Billy to be like, oh, this guy's corrupt. We have no evidence to do that. The only way we're going to do that is if we kind of go outside of the law, because again, Cade even says sometimes with current climate, getting a warrant to do things is a little trickier. So you got to have to bend the rules. You got to have to hire third-party people. Well, guess what? It wouldn't be funny if Taggart and Rosewood hired the third-party person in Axel, their best friend, to come down, help them suss this out, just the way Kay's doing that with those goons to get his operations done, and then you have a clash. And like that's how you do these types of things. And then unfortunately, you have his daughter caught in the middle. And it would work normally, but I don't know what happened behind the scenes here. It felt like there was, to me, I think that Eddie Murphy's in this space right now where he's trying to recapture what he did in the 80s because that was his peak of his life prior to having his kids. And I think now that he's kind of an empty nester of sorts, because I think all of his kids have been married and they're moved out, he's trying to recapture that again. And by walking in those shoes, I think he stumbled hard with Coming to America, because that was not a good follow-up.
That was trash,
and with
man.
this one here, I think he got closer to where he was. I like the approach with how Foley is a little bit more reserved now that he's kind of older, but he's also more used to this life. So he's not as flamboyant or crazy as he needed to be when he was when he was an undercover cop. Now he's just working the streets normally. But I was with you, man. All the N-bomb stuff that was being peppered throughout this, I'm like, Axel doesn't talk this way. I don't know why they're doing that. It's like David S. Goyer dialogue. Just
well,
it
in
just
the first
off.
one, in the first one he does say that because about
Only
the
once,
Beverly
though,
Hills
yeah.
Hotel.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny, and I thought it was hilarious when he pulled it at the Red Wings game. By the way, folks, we have 533 people watching. Hit that thumbs up button, and there's only 18 days left for Wokebusters, and once it's gone, it's gone. So go to Kickstarter.com, type in Wokebusters, get yourself a copy of a great graphic novel, 100 pages, all written and drawn by me, full color, beautiful cover choices, 4 of them, and I may have a surprise cover to drop in a couple of days from an artist that worked on the book as well. So there's a little surprises left for Wokebusters. But to get all that and more, we got to hit our goal. And we're kind of far away, but I'm not stopping till the last second. So folks, join me. There's going to be a lot more streams on their way, more content, and a video about what is Wokebusters will be ready in just a few short days. But I wrote everything out. I made sure it's as clear as crystal. And folks, I know you're going to love this book. I love it. I can't wait to bring it to you. But now that we got that said, I also liked Kevin Bacon. I liked the callbacks. And the thing, folks, the reason why we're talking about this movie, you take like a Force Awakens or a Halloween 2018. I think Halloween 2018 is a very egregious legacy sequel as well, like a Force Awakens, where it just is a remake in a different way. Now, you can pick that this movie, Part 4, people are like, it's a remake of Part 1. It really isn't, though. Because you got to remember, the formula of Beverly Hills Cop is you got to get this character from Detroit, Michigan to Beverly Hills, California every time. First one, his best friend is murdered. He follows the trail of the German bearer bonds. The second time, he gets a phone call that his guy that backed him up the first time had been shot by someone else. And so he's on a revenge kick. And then in the third one, his boss is shot in front of him and he follows him out there. This is one of the first times where he's like going after a missing person. This is, first off, too, the daughter relationship I had no issue with because it has a resolution that works. And the whole movie isn't her, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. They have their moments, they have their dialogue. By the end of the movie, things are worked out. But I never once rolled my eyes at it like I do with other movies where they try to make a character an absentee father, like Indiana Jones. James Bond makes sense because he's a whore anyway, so why would he stick around for a kid? But like Han Solo, all of his roguish scoundreliness, that shit died in the first Star Wars. He's a hero on out. He can't even run away from the Empire to protect himself. He sticks around to protect other people. You keep going backwards with these characters, these guy characters. Axel Foley wasn't done that way. I thought it made sense because he got involved and the mafia threatened to kill his family. And he's like, hey, you're getting out of here, but I'm loyal to the police force or whatever. I thought it worked across the board. I liked his reasoning. I liked the daughter. I thought it worked to get them to a good place at the end of the movie. And people could argue, well, he didn't kill the villain or, well, whatever. She shot whatever. Okay. We also watched a whole movie where he talked about, I taught you all these things as a dad, because I may be a cop, but that's what I tell you. Some people teach their kids to do this or to cook or that. I teach you how to break locks and shoot guns. Like, it was all in the script, and it built to why these characters could do the things they do. I never once scratched my head and went, wait, how does she know how to do this? How does he know how to do this? Look, they're cops. Cops are kind of a coverall action character. They know how to do car chases, and they shoot well, and this and that, and they can fly, kind of, in this movie. But
oh no, I'm totally on your side on that part, which is like I couldn't see Jane as a girl boss because they had the thing where Foley opens up. It's like, so you still you have your gun? No, I got rid of that. You don't even go to the range? Nothing. It's like, no, I forgot how to shoot. I forgot how to get out of a trunk. I forgot how to break out of handcuffs. I mean, she's lying clearly, but she's doing that because she's resentful. The only thing that bothered me is like, I would have much rather seen the 12th Street Mafia storyline, or at least some sort of setup to it. Because when you're dealing with this dynamic, when you're dealing with two characters that have become estranged from each other because the parent had to do something that, killed them inside, but it was for the greater good, so to speak. You have to present that in a way so that we, the audience, understand the stakes and understand the decision. And for us to also empathize with both characters, empathize with the kid not being able to understand the level of danger, even if she was to argue, it's like, but you trained me, you showed me how to shoot, you showed me how to get out of cuffs, you showed me how to get out of trunk. It's like, listen, I can't take that risk that they're just going to capture you. I think they're going to kill you. They've threatened to kill you. They threatened to kill your mom. I'm sending you guys to Beverly Hills. And when I get these perps napped, I'm coming to get you and we're taking you home. And then what happens is, again, that's something you have to show us, because one of the things that bothered me, and this is also something that bothered me with the Beverly Hills Cop pilot, is that Foley gets divorced. The divorce is always the wife's idea. And it's like, well, I want to see that. I want to see the comedy that can come out of that. I want to see how Foley reacts to his wife, whom he loves, saying, you sent us to Beverly Hills just to be a cop hero in Detroit. I don't want to be married to you anymore because you've been gone for X amount of months. And all we're getting is these weird, random calls from private numbers. We don't even know how to contact you, because if we do know your number or anything, they're listening in on all your phones calls and whatnot, trying to find us so that they can get to you. It's no way to live a life. Why don't we just cut it off? And then, Foley's got to beg or do something to try and hold on to it. And it just doesn't work.
I think that would be out of character, because we talked about how his romance in part 3 is just a couple of scenes, but at the core, Axel Foley is not a character that we ever see in a romantic situation. Correct. Or really should. It works better. He's really driven by the job, the revenge, the honor to Bogomil. Like, we know he's got a girlfriend, or he kind of is seeing Marcy, even though she's seeing Jeffrey at the same time. We know Axel is not gay. We know he's interested in this kind of shit, but he's never been a family man or a romantic character. And so I think having this story had happened, it's been in the past and times moved on, and we never see the wife. I think that's the most Beverly Hills Cop thing you can do, because Axel Foley does not have a wife. He does not have somebody to go home to. He's really just a loner, and they found a way to keep him a loner in a way that I liked, because I didn't want to see him going home. And like, that's just not the character. The character, these aren't real people, first off. And so I do want to see them evolve and grow like real people would, but as a movie character too, like, I don't want to watch James Bond go do his taxes, and I don't want to go watch James Bond like go buy shoes and shit like that. Like, I know he does these things. I know that happens. I just want, the prime version. And I was so happy that like they wrote it in a way that it made sense, and I don't want to know anymore. I don't need to know any more about Axel Foley. When you go and you try to deconstruct a character, be it James Bond, Indiana Jones, Batman, anybody, you get to a point of the deconstruction to where, at least me personally, I lose interest in the character, because I know too much. Like, I don't need to know every detail about Axel and Mikey Tandino stealing the Cadillac. I just need to know that they did it. It's a story that you never need to see. And I lump his marriage with, I don't even think they say her name in the movie, Mrs. Foley. Like, she is just an enigma. And I don't think Axel Foley should ever have a wife or a girlfriend or anything. If they do a fifth one, which I don't really want, but if they do another one, no girlfriend for Axel, no nothing. I thought it was kind of funny that the real estate lady called him daddy and this and that. Like, I get it. It was because he's the dad or whatever, but he's just this character. It makes sense that he has children, and it makes sense that like he interacts with other people, but I couldn't see him going home to a wife. Like, he doesn't go home to the same apartment. That's a different apartment. If anybody makes a video that says, "Oh, you live in the same apartment," it's fucking not. All right.
No, it's not. It's a
I'm
completely
the
different
expert
part
on
of
that
town
shit.
too. Like,
Yeah. And that was a beautiful thing about this movie, because here's the thing, folks. I'll make it personal. I lived in Michigan. I lived in California, close to Detroit, close to Beverly Hills. I kind of got that experience of what these places look like today. I was raised on these movies. I watched Beverly Hills Cop since I was 7 or 8. And so that old Detroit, and then you watch the opening of this movie, and it's like how real Detroit has gotten better. And then you watch how Beverly Hills really hasn't changed over 40 years, and it's just as stupid. It's a nice way to make the setting a character as well, because excess never changes. People get money, they get crazy, they want to live in a roundhouse. Fuck it, like in part 2. And then Detroit's kind of like this. They're trying to reclaim the glory that they once had. The movie just kind of covered all of every Beverly Hills Cop thing you could do without being a retread. There's like no banana in the tailpipe. They don't try to redo certain tropes. But, at the end of the movie, they tack on the 3 of them sitting in the car, just like in the original movie. They bring back the freeze frame. For the most part, the music avoids, they have like one hip hop song that I think sucks. Most of the movie is a score, and the music's great. I go on about like little details. Every little detail that's ever been put into a Beverly Hills Cop score is in this one. It's like the ultimate fucking legacy sequel. Everything was covered for me, and like they hit you on levels that I didn't think they were going to cross. Other than the one thing I hated out when they went through the file of Axel Foley and it showed you like stills from the movies. I'm like, who's there taking these photos? We saw there's no cameraman there when Axel got arrested. Like, who took
I
this
pointed that out in my review. It's just like, it's a gimmick that it's an inside the film industry gimmick. It's like, yes, let's take shots of the movie, recognizable stuff, throw it in there. I will say this. Billy Rosewood, he got a theme song in this movie, and it was an inverted Axel F. And we only got to that one moment when he's going to talk to Jane for the first time. And I'm like, oh man, I kind of want to get the full rendition of that song. It sounds really cool. But like, to your point, yes, they reference the movies. They do a jab at the Beverly Hills Cop 3. But the question that I'm kind of wondering is like, they've kind of said with this one that at the time of Beverly Hills Cop 3, Axel Foley had a 2-year-old daughter. Ooh, there you go.
Oh God, that I already got this shit on download. Wait, I missed that shit.
Yeah, she's 32 years old.
Because that kid wouldn't be there.
Yeah, I mean, because they do a couple of those issues like, Foley says, I've been a cop for 30 years. I've been black longer. It's like, well, no, you've been a cop for 40 years, man. And then there's another 30-year reference as well when it should be 40 years. And it's like, okay, so clearly there's whoever's doing continuity or whoever's doing whoever's doing continuity on this film was not working that day. And the fact that Jane is a 32-year-old, and we see her ID when she's going into the police station, and she's born in March 92. And it's like, she's too old. Or now we've got this weird moment in Foley's life around Beverly Hills Cop 3 where things aren't adding up. It's because it's like, well, he's in Beverly Hills. If his daughter and her mom would have been at Todd's funeral.
Yep.
And we don't see anything that would suggest that they would be there as family in any way. And then on top of that, okay, whether he's not married to his baby mama or not, he's flirting with Janice and Beverly Hills.
Yeah, now that I'm like, well, I didn't read the date or put that together, I'm like, yeah, that does kind of fall apart. So I have to take a point off this movie. Damn it. I was like an 8 out of 10. Yes. Not to say,
you know what's crazy is that you could fix that with ADR quite easily. Instead of her saying like you're 32 years old, it's like, and you're 29 years old. That's it.
I wouldn't mind if they went back and fixed that real quick, Netflix, because here's the thing. If I'm going to nail Star Wars to the wall on bullshit that makes no sense, I got to nail something that I like to the wall too for the same thing, to be fair. That, I won't say it breaks my heart, but I'm very disappointed that I missed that, and that was a thing. God damn it, guys.
It's a messed up oversight that that the filmmakers themselves should not have missed. Like, because that's just the thing. Because you don't have to say that Janice is the mom. Like, you don't. It
Not
could
at
be
all.
anyone. This is the same issue I had with the Beverly Hills Cop pilot. It takes place in 2013, like 9 years after Beverly Hills Cop 3. Or sorry, no, 20 years after 19 years after Beverly Hills Cop 3. There's no way his son would be a 19-year-old detective in Detroit Police Department. He'd still be at the academy at that age.
Yeah.
Because you'd have to do a police foundations course plus another one in college, like 3-4 years. So he's not, and then he's clearly obviously in his early 20s. So like he's clearly like they broke continuity there too. So it's weird.
I
They've done this
what
twice now.
Yeah, if they made it like abundantly clear, like with Superman Returns, Superman 3 and 4 don't exist anymore. This starts here.
Yeah.
You get into some weeds about that. Same with Halloween, but then they gotta fix it, or I guess it's just a mistake. Then you gotta just kind of treat it as a mistake and not try to do the modern thing of how do we fit this into the pre-existing timeline. It's just a gaffe, like the guy with the green sweater in Star Wars that's on the Millennium Falcon or something. There's just mistakes in movies.
Yep.
But I'm glad so many people stuck around for us to talk about that movie because, outside of that one age continuity thing, I really had a great time watching it. It was so fun. I upgraded my Netflix to 4K just to watch this movie at the highest quality possible. It's Beverly Hills Cop, man.
The stuff with Billy, the stuff with Axel I love that meter maid buggy chase. I thought that was funny. And it was also kind of painful because I've seen photos recently of that area of Beverly Hills Cop and it's kind of like a ghost town. So it was nice to see it populated, even in fiction.
I've been there. I bought a cheeseburger at the top of those stairs at a pop-up once. It was
I've been to Norm's, man. Like I've been to a lot of those places that's been in the film. And it's like, oh man, yeah, I really want to get back out to LA and go visit those areas again. And it's not easy, especially in this climate and what's going on politically right now. But no, I will say this: I liked the ending part, like the epilogue of sorts, where they're at the restaurant and they're kind of reconciling things. I'm like, that's cool. As I said earlier, even if we want to go back, I would have much preferred, like the scene with him and his best friend in Beverly Hills Cop 1, I would have preferred to have at least seen something of that level of detail and that level of time utilized with regards to setting up why these two him and his daughter are separated. Like you could do it with the wife if you wanted to, or you could just do it with her. But you also get into that edgy, touchy area where you're doing a flashback, which I hate doing, or you're stuck in dialogue. And when you're stuck in something of dialogue that should be shown, you're putting yourself into a bind. It might have just been easier to say that the moment that she became a defense attorney is when Foley kind of started judging her differently and looking at her differently. And even though he never stopped talking to her, she started getting more defensive with him because he represents the people that she has to fight against in court. And that could have been a better thing where instead of him just being like the guy that pushed his daughter away, which he didn't really do. He's like, I protected you and I protected you the best way I could. It would have been better if it leaned more into the fact that she's defending an alleged cop killer, and that irks Foley until he realizes that this guy isn't a cop killer. Number two, the guy that was killed was not corrupt, was trying to get out of the corruption, and he died in that effort. And that maybe things are a little bit more complicated than he at once thought, or he forgot how complicated things can get because all of his experiences kind of given him a second sight of how things are supposed to work. And Jane is the one thing that you kind of need when you're bringing in a new character to a franchise, which is the fresh eyes perspective character. The person is like, listen, I know how this things work. And yes, 99% of the time they work like this, but this is what's actually happening from what I can see. And let's work together to get this sorted out. That would have been, again, it comes down to the fact that the three writers of this never wrote a procedural before. And that's one of the things I liked about the first two, specifically of Beverly Hills Cops, is that they are procedural films with comedy peppered throughout.
Oh yeah. Because this one has so much more action than any Beverly Hills Cop movie. The first one doesn't have a lot of action. It's a truck chase, and then there's a shootout at the end. The car chase is like a low speed car chase through a suburb of Beverly Hills, to a country club. It's a very, like, they cut out, there's a fight scene from Beverly Hills Cop. Nobody really knows that, but if you look at the back of the laser disc, it's a couple of guys on the ground and Axel Foley's doing a karate kick. I've read that the stunt work of Eddie Murphy, the fighting scenes weren't convincing, so they cut a lot of that stuff. But with the stuff with the daughter, to me, it was the B story. I know a lot of people look at it as like the A story, but Axel's story has always been, I gotta go avenge or do this thing for the people in Beverly Hills. And I get that his daughter is why he's coming out, because something happened to her. But part of that, once he got to her, I kind of felt like the story was really about the dirty cop, the corruption, and Billy, and their relationship was just like, the relationship with them is the B story, and the relationship with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's like part C to that. And I kind of liked how they all kind of drove on the same path to figure out the dirty cop and the Billy stuff, and that was the main drive. And then the other relational stuff, it's a part of it, every part, but it's not like all that you see in the movie. And I also thought it was good because if in the wrong hands, it would have been her talking down to her dad. Like, folks, there are parts where Axel is trying to talk his way into shit, and she backs him. Like, at first she'll talk shit, and then you're like, oh, is she going to try to blow up his spot every time? And Axel's still sharp enough to beat her in the battle of wits. That's what you want with these movies. You don't want the new young character talking shit and the old character looks dumb. He rises to the occasion. And then later in the movie, when he tries to talk his way into something else, she's on his side and helps him get in there. So it's like, a lot of she, in no way is she a girl boss character. Anybody that's telling you that is stupid. Like, just flat out, it's like, come on, guys, you're making this shit up now. You watch Axel win every point of the journey. Like, Axel Foley wins, and he gets his daughter back, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt's a cool character. Like, everything works out in this movie. It's a very they lived happily ever after type of story.
Which is how those movies end. Like, that's the thing. They all kind of end with the happily ever after. And to your point, yes, not only does she backs up her dad on those things. Yeah, she'll challenge him. Like at the impound, she does a fun joke challenging him just to see, okay, can he still recover from this? And then when he goes like, "Yo, you could be father, you could be the father." It's like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Yeah, I guess so." And then that goes in there. The problem I thought had with Taylor is that when it came down to like the exposition, some parts she really shined. Like at the high profile club posing as the mayor's assistant, like that. I'm like, where was that level of acting at the impound? Like when they're actually talking about the car and the investigation and finding the hidden camera. I'm like, where was that? That is what you had to have. That tone, that confidence should have been presented at the impound. The way she delivered those lines, it's like she didn't know what the words she was saying meant. That threw me off a lot. But I did like how, I loved how Eddie Murphy said "Fancy Dan." I'm like, that made me laugh because it's like he's making fun of this guy, trying to pull off as a fire inspector. And then she kind of comes in, does some support, builds off his thing, and it works. And it's like, okay, I see the dynamic here. But I loved also the fact that every line that Eddie Murphy was saying to Jane was him trying to bond and build back that bridge that she has kind of burned down behind him. And some points he gets to her. I did think after he did the Saunders joke, which I thought was really funny, her laughing, I think that kind of broke the character that she was trying to do at that time. I think that was just her generally laughing. They're like, "Oh, that's funny. We'll just keep that in." It's like, I think, that might not.
The coldness should have kind of died out because there was a part where after they figure something out at the hotel and she's like, "You need to go home right now." And he's like, "I'm not going home." That was the one part of the movie where I'm like, they shouldn't have this scene. Like, just blindly, like once you laugh, just blindly accept that, oh, and they're going to be okay because it's not the focal point of the movie. Like, I was happy, man. Like, clearly I like it more than the Acolyte.
Oh, yeah.
I will watch it a third time. And if they do a physical release, I'll buy it. If they make a t-shirt, I'll buy it. Like, there's not a Beverly Hills Cop piece of merchandise I won't purchase, folks. I'm very easy. And by the way, I don't know if you're listening, but whoever made me that Axel Foley figure, that shit lives back there. That is my favorite thing anyone has ever sent me to the channel. I wanted an Axel Foley figure. Someone made it for me. So thank you. It went to California. It made its way back here. I love that thing. Let's read a couple messages for the audience because they've been patiently waiting. Xavier to God says the show is $70 million more than Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is a pretty good movie. It's my favorite of the prequels. It looks good. It has great action. And it, like you said earlier, it kind of like puts it in a good place where, hey, this is over, and then it ends with Return of the Jedi, and Star Wars is pretty much, we're all happy with it. Now let's make video games and comic books forever, and that's all she wrote. And George Lucas would have just kept making that money because I'd have kept buying.
Yeah.
Enrique Vasquez also says, Star Wars and other great IPs are long gone. I'm not creative, but I will support new stuff like Woke Busters and Stealing So. Fat button, please. Well, Enrique, thank you for having such good taste and being a good friend. But folks, you should check out my work. It's independent, but that doesn't mean it's lower quality than anything in the mainstream. I get the same quality print for my books. We got one right here. And, these Stealing Solo Phantom Menace editions, I got to say, man, whatever marketing tactic I've used about it going away, it's working because we're down to, we had 64. We're probably down to 52 or 53. We've sold a decent amount of these 4-packs in the last day alone. But yeah, folks, I like to put all these extras and bonus pieces into these books. It's more than just the comic. You get cover galleries and alternate versions. And Woke Busters has all of this stuff too, folks. So I will have a video out that'll tell you a little bit more about it. There's only 18 days left, and I even have a new button to show you. It's got some different animation from the trailer. I worked with an animator. I worked with some other guy, and we created something really cool with that. So I'm excited to show it to you in just a few moments. But first off, we have to press this button for our friend Enrique. Clearly, I found it. I wasn't stalling for time.
Threats are part of wrestling, But you got to look at the person that's making the threats. This fat son of a bitch is challenging all of us, has been world champions before, been in this business 15, 20 years, and this fat son of a bitch is going to drown us all out.
Calm down, okay? All right?
He's fat. I'm going to,
about this.
I don't care if he don't, I'll make him bleed.
Good for you, Scotty boy. So is there anything, well, since you didn't get to finish the episode, let me rephrase that. Since you didn't have to suffer through the rest of the episode, I feel like I've covered it fairly accurately. There really isn't too much to say. Let's see. Sal Sandoval 82 says, I think Matt LaCroix did the figure. Well, Matt LaCroix, thank you very much. It's right back there behind my Beverly Hills Cop VHS display from 1987. Well, maybe 88. I don't know exactly when the VHS dropped. But I do have a store display for the first movie as well back there. It's just a little, they made like a police badge that says Beverly Hills Cop on it. It's got Axel with his gun. It's like, get the videotape now or the laser disc. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, that's all that back there. But folks, while I still have you here for the next couple of seconds, check this out. Yes.
Cool, man.
Thank you. I like it. I worked with a lot of cool people to make this thing a reality. So, folks, go over to Kickstarter and check it out. I get it. Times are tough. Believe me, I am not oblivious to any of those things. But you got to do things when you got to do things. And I wanted to get Woke Busters in everyone's hands right now. So get yourselves a copy of this book. It's a big graphic novel. And if you have a chance to come meet us at a con, come get it signed. There's somebody out there that has... Wait, I don't think anybody, technically, there's no one out there with a copy of Stealing Soul that's autographed from all 4 of the kidnappers. Will you be the first person to get a copy of Woke Busters autographed by the Woke Busters themselves? Find out. We will be at cons later this year. We'll be making more announcements, and I'm going to be making the circuit. I'll be at Dragon Con. I'll be in Miami. Well, Miami's a personal trip, so if you see me in Miami, say hey. But folks, we told you we're putting the world in world-class bullshitters. I had to make sure Wokebusters was done perfect. It's done. It's ready to go to you guys. And now we can expand and do different things with the channel. It's been a long time with this book. And you know what? I'm very proud of it. No matter what happens, where it goes, to the top, even higher, I'm happy with Wokebusters. And I know once you guys read it, you are going to be hungry for more. So, Script, is there anything else you want to say to the audience? Anything you want to tell them about? Look, we're nearing a 2-hour mark. That's a good time to end the show. People had a lot of fun. Nobody really cares about the Acolyte. Folks, I'll be doing more solo streams as well because clearly you guys were on board with that. I'll bring back GMPC. Let's have some fun with it. But anything else you want to say, my man?
No, other than go back. Wokebusters looks great. I do have Stealing Solo, and I thought it was a really fun read. I like it. If you haven't purchased that already, go buy that. You will not be disappointed. It is definitely a great Star Wars parody, and also a love letter to Star Wars as well. So yeah, I don't really have much to say other than also check out Netflix's Beverly Hills Cop Axel F. Go read my text review over on my Patreon. You can sign up for free and for the first week, and then you can see all my backlog reviews and videos, private interviews, all that type of stuff. You'll definitely get a kick out of that. And in the near future, I'll be talking some more Beverly Hills Cop with you, man, because I got that original slide rewrite draft and stuff, and I want to do a couple of episodes talking that script with some of the Beverly Hills Cop fans I know. So that'll be fun to do. So be on the lookout for that.
Folks, you got to be on the lookout for that. But I recommend you go check out his Patreon right now because we did a little video on Spider-Man. It was very fun to get to talk about one of my favorite fictional characters in such an academic way. But it wasn't boring in the slightest bit. So
No.
Script and I have had a lot of fun. Clearly, you guys have been watching us for quite a while together now on here, and it's been fun the entire time. So I'm excited to talk about that. I'm excited to tell people to go to our Patreon to watch Beverly Hills Cop with us today. Listen at any level because we're making things more accessible for people. And just as a personal side, it's nice that one of my favorite things came back and it was good. Like, I literally exclaimed, it didn't suck when it was over. Like, I was so happy that this was what they gave us. And it wasn't one of those, I lowered my expectations. I was like ready to go to the war on this one. And Axel Foley's done right. Is it perfect? Now that I know his daughter's age doesn't line up, no, it's not. But thank you for that. I'm not being sarcastic. I need to know these things because if I like praise this movie for years and then I go, oh wait, that was stupid, then I feel silly. But I liked it, folks, and I do think you should watch it. Clone Geek, I have a little bit of time. I'm going to put on an episode of Ghost Stories tonight. As you can see, folks, we've been getting some stuff ready. I'll have a review of the Acolyte for tomorrow, I know. But in case you missed it, I did throw a review last week up of the live one. Yes, I didn't make an episode 6 or 7 review because I just didn't. I'm sorry. Holiday, mom's birthday. I'm not sorry. You guys are great, but there's no but. You guys are great. I appreciate it, but I just can't do the Acolyte. Xavier God says it's better than Top Gun Maverick. I don't think, objectively speaking, it's a better movie than Top Gun Maverick because Top Gun Maverick is, I don't know, man. It's high adrenaline. I like it more because I like Beverly Hills Cop more. It speaks to me. It's a lower rent, and I don't mean lower. It's a smaller budgeted type of film. It's different. Axel Foley action is not Maverick up in an airplane. I also don't have any connection to Top Gun. I didn't particularly like the first movie, but I liked the second one enough to own it. So that's the most honest answer I can give you, Xavier to God. So, folks, thank you for watching. We're going to get out of here. We'll be back next time with more. But in the meantime, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.
.com.
Me off, all right, man. Jerk somebody else off. This is bullshit. I need $5,000, not $2,000 thing, man. Don't do this to me.
Look, don't be unreasonable. You're not dealing with Johnny Bananas. Come on. Yeah.
Nah, I know I ain't dealing with Johnny Bananas.